Howdy, folks. I'm Bob Schrupp, physical therapist.
Brad Heineck, physical therapist.
Together we are the most famous physical therapists on the internet.
In our opinion, of course, Bob.
Today, Brad, we're going to review the heating pad versus the moist hot pack versus the infrared heating system device.
Sure.
So
yeah, and again, hot packs are a heating device with, why do you use it? When do you use it? Is it for pain?
What's the advantage of using heat?
Right.
Basically.
Exactly.
And we're going to talk about the differences between the different types of heat.
Right.
So
we got the three systems here that are available that we're well aware of and have used all of them.
Right.
So we're going to give our professional opinion.
We've used them all fairly extensively, so I think we're pretty well qualified to make a judgment on this one. And by the way, if you are new to our channel...
Oh, that was a good segue.
Somewhat. Please take a second to subscribe to us. We provide videos on how to stay healthy, fit, pain-free, and we upload every day. Also, go over to Facebook and like us, because I'm going to keep this short, Brad. We like to be liked. How's that?
Yeah.
You like that better?
Like us today and tomorrow.
Oh,
okay.
My gosh.
Yes, I'm going to be a singer.
Gosh.
So with hot packs, there's one rule I think everyone agrees on, is when not to use it is right after an injury. If you sprain your ankle, you get a bad bruise, you're not going to put a hot pack on it.
The tissues are inflamed. They're hot already. There might be swelling and edema, which this could make it worse.
Right.
So
within 48 hours afterwards, and I personally usually wait longer than 48 hours, and they're going to use a cold pack initially. But once you're past that phase and you've decided you want to use a hot pack and you want to use it for therapeutic reasons, in other words...
What's the goal?
Right. In other words, you just don't want to put it on to get warm.
Right.
You want to have decreased pain, increased circulation so things heal faster.
Right. The more blood flow to the area, generally, the quicker it's going to heal.
Right.
So,
relaxes muscles so that you can get movement, get range of motion, which is what therapists, one of our main goals is, get moving so that things will start work and achieve less pain.
So one of the keys is going to be depth of penetration, right, for the heat.
Precisely.
We're going to want to compare these three. Which one, how deep do they go? Which one is the deepest?
Right.
Because you had kind of an analogy.
Right. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about this last night for this video, and it just popped on me, Bob. I was so excited. I said, how can we relate this to something that, maybe we can
understand?
Right. Let's say, for example, on my forearm, I've got tennis elbow. I've had it for a month. These muscles are tender. They're sore. Obviously, it's sore on the elbow. We want to loosen up these muscles to take the stress off, increase the circulation, and heal the whole area.
Right.
Okay. Now, I think everyone could probably agree, if we want to loosen these muscles up and you get a massage, you're probably going to want to get in and work the muscle tissues.
Very deep.
Right. And once
generally,
you can...
the more, almost the better.
Right. And
if you can tolerate.
If you've had a massage by a masseuse or massage therapist, they typically are almost always get in deep into the muscle. Sometimes it's a little painful, but when you're done, it feels much better.
Right.
Okay. Otherwise, you can get a massage where you just kind of rub over the top of it, and it feels kind of good, But are you doing anything to increase the circulation?
Right. So if you're doing just a real superficial massage,
right.
What are the benefits?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think everyone can probably relate and say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The same would go
along with the
heat. We want to get the heat into the tissue. We want to have that depth so that the circulation in the muscles and in the joints can increase. Once you increase circulation, you increase healing, things start to feel better.
I think you kind of ambled into a good point there, Brad, also about joints. I mean, if you're going to having trouble within a joint itself, let's say with arthritis, in order to help calm that down, you need to get the heat all the way into the joint.
Sure.
And some of these systems don't go very deep.
Right.
So they're not going to get all the way into the joint.
So should we talk about
let's talk
the first one?
Yeah.
Okay, typically, I think most people are familiar with the electric heating pad, and this is what they call a convection heating pad. It just produces heat, okay? The heat has to transfer to your skin by contact, okay? And they've done studies on this, and how deep does this go? It's right around 1/4 of an inch.
Yeah.
It's just below the skin.
If you're on a different scale, just a couple millimeters really is all it goes.
You got a study on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm going by one that it wasn't specific, but it was basically just below the skin level.
I think they said 6 millimeters.
Sure.
The other one was 10 times more.
Either way, it's just below the skin.
Sure.
It's not going into the muscle, okay, unless you got muscle right there, which isn't the case for most people.
So not very deep.
Right. Okay. The next thing about this is there's three, typically, a lot of times they have 3 levels on these electric ones, which is a nice option. I really like that. If you put it on the high level and then you use it, you do have to be careful that you don't leave it on too long. Bob and I both have had patients that have burned themselves at home.
2 weeks ago, I had 2 patients in 1 week that had burned themselves with a heating pad.
Sure.
I mean, one had burned themselves on the neck and one had burned himself on a joint. And so it's really not hard to do. And then you're dealing with, worried about infections and stuff like that.
So if you do get one of these, like this one has a 2-hour limit. It's automatically set after 2 hours. If you fall asleep with it, it turns off, which is nice. So, that's something to look for.
But not very, again, doesn't penetrate very deep.
Sure. And the other thing with this is the cost. They're not really expensive. $30, $40, $50, depending on which kind you like. They cost a little bit as far as electricity, typically around 100 watts on a higher one. It's not going to break the bank if you leave it on all night. Right. It's still not bad, but we'll compare that with some of our other options.
Sure.
Okay, so that's the electric one.
All right.
Okay, next one.
This is a therapy thing here generally.
Right. If you're a physical therapist, you know what the hydroculator is. Right. It's been around for many years, and it's kind of the gold standard in a lot of therapy clinics. We want to get a moist hot pack versus a dry one. And because the moist feels like it goes in deeper.
It feels like it does, but we're going to reveal right now it does not.
It does not go any more than the electric.
I mean, I was basically taught, Brad, this is a radiant type of heat almost, right?
No, this is convection as well.
That is convection.
I did my homework on this, Bob.
But I was taught that a moist heat doesn't really make any difference between moist and dry.
No, but it feels better.
It feels better.
Yeah, you get moisture on your skin, and
Sure.
So it does feel warmer. But that's the thing with this is, if you're a therapist, you know that these are not the easiest to work with. You usually tell your aide to go do it because you don't want to mess around with it.
Right.
Because the water in here is typically around 160 degrees, so you don't want to stick your fingers in there because it hurts.
Yeah.
And then
so what does he do? He puts his fingers in there right away.
Well, I knew it wasn't that bad. I tested it, and it shouldn't be that hot. Then you got to take one of these things and then try to get this in here like this, and you drop it on the floor, and then it hurts your fingers. Ow, ow, and you wrap it up, and then not only that, after you get it with one of their, I'm going a little fast here, you got to get 4 to 6 layers of towels.
Yeah.
And then you have the patient lean forward and just try to stuff these towels in here. Every therapist knows this whole routine. And then you have them lean back on there, and they don't feel any heat. And they say, I don't feel any heat. And you say, we're going to give it, a couple minutes, and you'll feel it come through, which is very true. And then all of a sudden, oh, that feels good. But then 15 minutes later or 10 minutes later, you have to continue to ask the person, is it getting too hot? And if they say, it's getting too warm, you grab more towels, have them lean forward, put some more towels in there and lean back. Oh yeah, that's better. And then you can, leave it on.
So 2 months ago, we had a patient on we had one on his knee, and we were asking him every few minutes, we were doing the job, and he's going, no, it's fine, no, it's fine. We take it off, there's a burn. And he goes, it's my fault. He goes, I told you it was fine the whole time, but he got burned bad enough that it actually broke the skin eventually, and we had to, obviously, we couldn't put heat on it for a long time after that because it broke down.
Right.
So.
And some people, like if in a stroke or other instances,
they have decreased sensation.
Yeah, the sensation isn't there. So you have to be careful. And the more I thought about this, I realized you have to clean this.
Yeah.
It's floor space.
You have to check the temperature.
They're difficult to use, and so.
These units, they run between 1,000, 1,500, maybe even more.
For the hydroculator.
Yeah, the hydroculator.
And then these things.
Right.
They break.
They break after a while.
And they make a really mess in there, and it's just a nasty thing to do. I've always wondered, after learning about this neck system, why
we're doing that. Why aren't we doing this instead?
Again, just below the skin. And now we want to go to the infrared.
Yeah.
Now this is far infrared. I had to do my homework on this, Bob, and I know you've looked into it already as well. But this uses light waves. This produces light waves. There's a high frequency. You can't see it, obviously. But this is nothing new. There's heaters, and they've been around for, I don't know if it's decades, but many years, where the heat, you put an infrared heater in your room, and it'll heat up objects.
Oh, sure.
The light rays will heat up the chair, it'll heat up the floor, and then that radiates into the room and heats up that. So, and that's what this does. And it's interesting because you can put your hand on here and it feels lukewarm. You put your hand on this one and it feels warm.
Right.
You know, it's not gonna, oh, it could burn you, as you know, if it's not used probably, but they're built pretty well and they got the 2-hour timer on it. But this, there's one heat setting and
you just turn it on.
Right, infrared.
But the big thing about this is the penetration.
Yeah, listen to this.
Yeah, so instead of going just 1/4 of an inch, it goes 2.36 inches.
Right.
So
10 times deeper.
10 times deeper than this.
Right.
So now we're getting, you know, especially if you wrap it around a joint, you're going all the way through the joint.
Right.
If you wrap it around a knee, you're going all the way through the knee.
Right. If you're going on the back to get those back muscles, which can be easily 1 to 2 inches thick, or if it's someone's, you know, a larger person, they got a lot of adipose, you know, fat that has to get through. Much better case of getting to the muscles with the infrared. It's an incredible device. And there's no cleaning, you know, there's no cleaning. You just have someone lean forward, you put it back there and you walk away. You don't have to continue.
I would make sure that you have, you know, if you're going to use it for more than one person, that you would have a layer of
a clean towel.
A clean towel.
Right, so we have that barrier.
Or sheet between the two.
Yeah, and that's very minimal compared to this hydroculator system where you go through the whole ordeal I talked about, which we're all aware of. You can just put it there, put the towel there, and walk away.
Much less chance of burning with this. Right. And Brad and I use this ourselves, and we just put it on at night. I put it on last night. I had a T-shirt on, and I just put it on. I had it up by my neck and my upper traps here, and I left it on for hours. And I know the people at Thermatech said they have one sitting in a chair that they just leave it on, so when people come into their you know, into their waiting room, they can try it, and they've had it on since 2001. And
so 17 years almost.
Yeah, and we figured that what was it? It's like 4 cents a day, or is
yeah? I actually did the calculation
amount
on that, but it's 1/3 the cost of this.
Sure.
36 watts. The Thermatech, this is their platinum model. We love them. We've been using them. We've been using them on patients. We've been having great success with them.
The downside would be the cost, the initial upfront cost here. You're going to spend more on this. And, you know, by the way, if you go use the code that we put down below, you're going to get a nice deduction in what you actually pay for.
Sure, right.
And, but it's interesting, somebody had written in that they go, oh my God, that's a deal, because they were getting this treatment at a club or something, and they were charging them like $300 a week to get the treatment.
To get the infrared.
Yeah, to get the infrared.
So once again, it's one of those things, if you just look at the cost, you look at a hot pack for, you know, that much money, but you really have to understand, with this, you're getting deep into the tissues, you're getting that therapeutic benefits that you're not going to get with the other ones at all. So.
FDA approved, also approved by Health Canada. It's top quality, good cord.
Oh, right.
Yeah, good solid cord.
Yeah, this is made for professional use.
Yeah.
I mean, you could use it every day, day in and out, with patients, for you therapists.
So Brad and I have started using it in the clinic, and I actually just had a couple wrist injuries that worked out really well with that. So,
yeah.
All right, anything else, Brad?
There you go. All these options are going to provide heat. They're going to feel good. But if you want that deep heat, I guess we've only got one option to get into that 2 inch and more into the tissues. So,
all right.
There you go.
Thanks, everybody, for watching.